The hidden psychology of high performance. What if I told you that elite performers, Olympic athletes, Fortune 500 CEOs, world-class musicians aren't succeeding because they work harder than you, but because they've accidentally stumbled upon specific neurological triggers that most people never activate? Here's the uncomfortable truth that performance psychologists have documented for 3 decades. Talent and effort account for less than 40% of peak performance outcomes. The rest comes from psychological mechanisms that operate below conscious awareness. This isn't hustle culture nonsense. This is hard science. Your nervous system has performance circuits that remain dormant in 90% of people, not because they lack ability, but because nobody taught them the activation protocols. When researchers at Stanford's Performance Psychology Lab compared brain scans of elite performers against equally skilled non-performers, they found distinct neural signatures, different activation patterns in the prefrontal cortex, unique dopamine regulation, and specific stress response profiles. The gap between good and extraordinary isn't genetic, it's neurological. Your brain possesses a biological loophole that elite performers exploit daily, often without realizing it. I'm about to reveal 10 precise techniques extracted from performance neuroscience, sports psychology research, and studies of flow state physiology. These aren't motivational concepts, they're executable protocols that reconfigure how your nervous system responds to challenge, pressure, and opportunity. Body 10 Techniquest Part 1. The pre-performance arousal calibration. Most people think peak performers are calm before big moments. Walk into any Olympic staging area or boardroom before a crucial presentation, and you'll see the opposite: fidgeting, pacing, rapid breathing. Here's what's actually happening. Elite performers intuitively understand that optimal performance requires a specific arousal level, not too calm, not too anxious. Sports psychologist Yuri Hanin discovered that each person has an individual zone of optimal functioning, and hitting that zone requires deliberate nervous system calibration. This is technique number 1 out of 10. The pre-performance arousal calibration. 15 minutes before any important task, assess your arousal on a 1 to 10 scale. 1 equals falling asleep, 10 equals panic attack. Your optimal zone is typically 6 to 8. If you're below 6, do 30 jumping jacks or sprint in place for 45 seconds. If you're above 8, practice box breathing. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Hold for 4. Repeat 5 times. Your autonomic nervous system controls performance capacity through sympathetic activation and parasympathetic calming branches. By manually adjusting your arousal level, you override default stress responses and enter the neurological state where skill execution becomes automatic and effortless. Start calibrating your arousal before every important moment and watch your consistency skyrocket. Part 2. The failure reappraisal protocol. Society teaches you to avoid failure and feel shame when it happens. High performers do the exact opposite, but not in the embrace failure cliché way you've heard 1,000 times. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman's lab discovered something remarkable. The brain only learns and adapts when it encounters prediction errors moments, when reality violates expectations. Failure isn't just tolerable, it's the only trigger for neuroplastic growth. Without failure, your neural circuits don't update. This is technique number 2 out of 10. The failure reappraisal protocol. Within 60 minutes of any failure or mistake, write down 3 specific things: what you predicted would happen, what actually happened, and what neural circuit needs updating. Frame it mechanically, not emotionally or debugging code, not judging yourself. Do this for 90 consecutive days. This process hijacks your brain's default shame response and redirects it toward curiosity. Your anterior cingulate cortex, which detects errors, begins associating mistakes with learning opportunities rather than identity threats. Over time, your failure tolerance increases exponentially, allowing you to attempt harder challenges. Start reappraising today's failure within the next hour and watch fear of mistakes dissolve. Part 3. The strategic recovery insertion method. Grinding without breaks is celebrated in achievement culture. High performers know that's the fastest path to burnout and performance degradation. Here's the counterintuitive reality. Recovery isn't what happens when work ends, it's what gets strategically inserted between performance bouts. Research from the Human Performance Institute shows that elite athletes and executives structure their days around 90-minute ultradian cycles, not 8-hour marathons. This is technique number 3 out of 10. The strategic recovery insertion method. Set a timer for 90-minute work blocks. At the 90-minute mark, take a mandatory 12-minute complete break. No phone, no email, no productive activity. Walk outside, lie down, stare at a wall. After 12 minutes, begin your next 90-minute block. Complete 4 blocks maximum per day. Your ultradian rhythm naturally oscillates between high and low energy every 90 to 120 minutes. Fighting this rhythm depletes your prefrontal cortex and elevates cortisol. Honoring it allows full replenishment of glucose and neurotransmitters between performance bouts. Maintaining peak cognitive function all day. Start implementing 90-minute cycles today and watch your sustained output double. Part 4. The identity level goal architecture. Goal-setting frameworks tell you to make goals smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. This approach has a fatal flaw that explains why 92% of goals fail. Psychologist James Clear identified the issue. Behavior change tied to outcomes is fragile, but behavior change tied to identity is permanent. When Stanford researchers studied sustained high performers, they found something striking. These individuals didn't pursue goals, they embodied identities. This is technique number 4 out of 10. The identity level goal architecture. Replace every outcome goal with an identity statement. Instead of "I want to lose 20 pounds, declare "I am someone who moves their body daily." Instead of "I want to grow my business," state "I am someone who creates value for others." Repeat your identity statement immediately upon waking and before sleep for 21 consecutive days. Your self-concept lives in the medial prefrontal cortex and drives automatic behaviors beneath conscious decision-making. When you shift from goal pursuit to identity embodiment, you eliminate willpower dependency. Behaviors become expressions of who you are rather than tasks you must complete. Start declaring your identity twice daily and watch effort transform into inevitability. Part 5. The competitive visualization inoculation. Visualization is mainstream now. Everyone tells you to picture success, but generic visualization is worthless. And here's why. Your brain can't distinguish between real and vividly imagined experiences, which sounds helpful until you realize this works both ways. Olympic psychologist Dr. Jim Aframo discovered that elite athletes don't just visualize perfect performances. They visualize obstacles, mistakes, and challenges, then visualize overcoming them. This psychological inoculation prepares neural pathways for adversity. This is technique number 5 out of 10. The competitive visualization inoculation. Spend 8 minutes daily visualizing your next challenge, but dedicate 6 of those minutes to imagining things going wrong, technology failing, opponents performing brilliantly, unexpected obstacles emerging. In the final 2 minutes, visualize yourself adapting and succeeding despite these challenges. Use all 5 senses in your mental imagery. This activates your prefrontal cortex's scenario planning circuits, creating neural pathways for adaptive responses. When actual adversity strikes, your brain recognizes the pattern and executes pre-programmed solutions instead of freezing. You've already experienced and overcome the challenge neurologically. Start inoculating against tomorrow's obstacles tonight and watch composure under pressure become your default. Part 6. The delayed gratification strengthening system. Willpower is finite. Everyone knows this. What most don't know is that willpower functions like a muscle. It strengthens with specific training protocols. Stanford's famous marshmallow experiment has a sequel that nobody discusses. Researcher Walter Mitchell followed up with the children 40 years later and discovered that delayed gratification ability at age for predicted income, health, and relationship success at age 44. The mechanism isn't moral character, it's prefrontal cortex development. This is technique number 6 out of 10. The delayed gratification strengthening system. 3 times weekly. Identify something you want immediately. Checking your phone, eating a snack, watching a show, and deliberately delay it by exactly 10 minutes. Set a timer. Observe your discomfort without acting on it. When the timer sounds, you can indulge. Increase the delay by 2 minutes each week until you reach 30 minutes. Your ventromedial prefrontal cortex governs impulse control by inhibiting the limbic system's immediate gratification demands. Each successful delay strengthens the neural connections in this inhibitory network. Over time, your capacity to override impulses increases across all domains. Start your first 10-minute delay today and watch self-regulation. The accountability partner had a 76% success rate compared to 43% for those who kept goals private. The mechanism isn't motivation, it's neurological. This is technique number 7 out of 10. The social accountability leverage technique. Select one person and commit to sending them a 3-sentence progress update every Monday at 9 a.m. For the next 12 weeks, the update must include one win, one struggle, and one commitment for the coming week. No exceptions. Schedule it like a medical appointment. Your brain's social cognition network activates powerful compliance mechanisms. When you make public commitments, the anterior cingulate cortex responsible for conflict monitoring creates psychological discomfort. When your actions don't align with stated intentions, this discomfort drives corrective behavior automatically. Start scheduling Monday updates with your accountability partner and watch follow-through become non-negotiable. Part 8. The cognitive load shedding protocol. Multitasking is a myth. Neuroscience proved this decades ago. Yet high performers seem to accomplish multiple complex projects simultaneously, creating the illusion of superhuman bandwidth. MIT neuroscientist Earl Miller revealed the secret. Elite performers don't multitask. They ruthlessly single-task with strategic task switching. More importantly, they externalize cognitive load so working memory remains available for high-level thinking. This is technique number 8 out of 10. The cognitive load shedding protocol. Every Sunday evening, conduct a 20-minute brain dump. Write every commitment, task, idea, and concern on paper or digital storage. Categorize into this week, this month, and someday each morning. Select only 3 items from this week as your daily focus. Everything else stays externalized. Your working memory, located in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, holds approximately 4 items simultaneously. When you try to mentally track dozens of commitments, you exhaust this system. Externalizing frees cognitive resources for creativity, problem solving, and skill execution. Start Sunday's brain dump this week and watch mental clarity return immediately. Part 9. The physiological state anchoring method. Your mental state follows your physical state, not the other way around. This reverses everything mainstream psychology teaches about mind over matter. Research from Ohio State University demonstrated that body posture, breathing patterns, and facial expressions directly alter neurochemistry within 2 minutes. High performers exploit this body-to-brain pathway to manufacture confidence, focus, and energy on demand. This is technique number 9 out of 10. The physiological state anchoring method. Create 3 distinct physical anchors: a power pose, hands on hips, chest up for confidence, rhythmic breathing, 5-second inhales, 5-second exhales for calm focus, and dynamic movement, arm swings, shoulder rolls for energization. Practice each anchor for 2 minutes daily for 14 days. Then deploy them strategically before different performance contexts. Your embodied cognition system uses interoceptive feedback signals from your body to determine emotional states. By consistently pairing physical positions with desired mental states, you create Pavlovian associations. Eventually, adopting the posture triggers the neurochemical cascade automatically. Start practicing your 3 anchors daily and watch state control become instantaneous. Part 10. The progress documentation amplification. Human memory is notoriously unreliable for tracking incremental progress. This creates a devastating psychological pattern. You're actually improving, but your brain doesn't register it, leading to premature quitting. Harvard psychologist Teresa Amabel studied thousands of high performers and discovered the progress principle. Small wins documented and reviewed have disproportionate motivational impact. The mechanism involves dopamine regulation in the nucleus accumbens. This is technique number 10 out of 10. The progress documentation amplification. Each evening, write down one specific thing you did better today than last week. Not achievements, but improvements. I presented with 30% less filler words. I handled criticism without defensiveness. Keep a running log. Review the entire log every Sunday. Continue for 60 days minimum. Your dopamine system responds to recognize progress, not absolute performance levels. By deliberately tracking micro improvements, you trigger dopamine release that reinforces the behaviors that created those improvements. This creates a self-sustaining motivation loop, independent of external validation.